Now, let's go back to a scene from the past. After a super tough training process, Tenza finally manages to disarm his master and asks him to keep on teaching him. Shin smiles and agrees, but for now, we're back in the present, and it's really sad because we see Tenza's lifeless body. Now, on the flip side, we've got Senta dealing with a real mental tangle. All that info he soaked up in Hoko's place has him all kinds of confused. Sajiri sees he's struggling and tells him to take a breather. It's pretty obvious he's on information overload. So, he takes her advice and rests. Later that night, he falls asleep right in front of Gabimaru, who's on guard duty. Gabimaru figures it's the perfect chance to sneak into the Horai area, even though Senta told him it's a bad idea without a solid plan. But Gabimaru's all about not wasting any more time. He's ready to step forward. He marches through the thick fog leading to Horai and runs into some tree-like creatures that look like Hoko. They're singing these weird songs that catch his attention. Still, he keeps on toward his goal, not realizing Mei is quietly trailing behind him. After a bit, he gets to the Horai gates and gears up to go in. But then, he senses someone behind him. He doesn't know who it is, but he's got a hunch they're not human, so he asks them to reveal themselves. Jujin got all bothered by Gabimaru just popping up, and she's like, "Go away. I don't want to deal with another person." Gabimaru, though, before hearing her say that, asks her if she's turning folks into that elixir of life stuff. That makes Gabimaru super cautious, and Jujin gets all mad and ready to fight. It's a showdown. Right then, Jujin's like, "Whoa, my arm's broken." After that, Gabimaru jumps in and kicks her neck. But guess what? Both of them heal up super quick, and the place gets wrecked as they fight. Gabimaru, while seeing all this crazy healing and strength, figures out she's one of those Tenzin folks. So, he uses his fire move to burn her up and then looks at the door to keep going. But, bam, he gets attacked by the crispy Tenzin, who smashes him into the door. Then, Jujin changes into a dude and thinks he accidentally clapped Gabimaru, who he thought could make more of that elixir. But surprise, Gabimaru's still standing. Gabimaru asks if he's one of those Tenzin he heard about, but no answer, so they start fighting. While all this goes down, Jujin's wondering how Gabimaru can take his hits, but Gabimaru ain't telling. He just wants to know where that elixir is. Tenzin stays quiet, not saying a word. Gabimaru realizes that the punches and kicks he's throwing aren't as strong as he thought. He notices that fighting this Tenzin head-on is risky because she's super strong and can't be hurt easily. Gabimaru's like, "Huh, that kick I did earlier made her spit out blood. That's weird." He's puzzled about it. But then, the Tenzin turns back into a woman and shoots this invisible energy blast from her hands. It hurts Gabimaru bad, but he's tough, and he's thinking, "Can I win this?" Then, he thinks about his wife, which gives him the strength to push through the Tenzin's attacks. He gets close to her and says, "I gotta go home, no matter what." So, Gabimaru starts throwing punches super fast, even faster than she can heal. Jujin ends up on the ground all messed up. Gabimaru's like, "Tell me where the elixir is." But the Tenzin just laughs, and flowers start growing on her. Before passing out, the Tenzin says they'll scold him again. Then, tons of flowers burst out of her, and Gabimaru sees her turn into a flowery monster. Now, he's trying to stay still and figure out how to deal with this floral monster in front of him. The changed Tenzin starts shooting lightning at Gabimaru, and it's super tough for him. He can't use his fire ninja stuff or dodge. It's like he's in a big jam. Gabimaru starts wondering if all this stuff happening on the island is real or just a bad dream as he starts losing consciousness. Later, Gabimaru wakes up in his bed next to his wife, and she's worried cause he had a bad dream. A tear comes out of his eye as he thinks it was all just a dream. His wife gives him some chrysanthemum tea to make him feel better, and he smiles, thinking even if it was a dream, he's happy to see her. He says sorry cause he can't come back to her in real life. But back to now, Gabimaru's getting choked by the transformed Tenzin. Then, he remembers what his old leader taught him, keep fighting no matter what. So, he uses this power called Higoshi and burns the flowery tentacle that's got him. But he's really hurt and can't stand up. Suddenly, Mei shows up and uses her power to make a bubble thing that takes Gabimaru far from the fight with Jujin. As the Tenzin changes back to normal, she's wondering why Mei did that. Back in the village, Senta tells Sajiri he's sorry cause he let Gabimaru escape and is ready for whatever happens. He tried looking for Gabimaru but got lost in the fog. Hoko says it's impossible to go beyond where they are right now. Sajiri says they should look for Gabimaru in Horai, but Yuzuriha thinks Gabimaru's on his own. She tells Sajiri that an Asiman shouldn't worry about criminals, and Sajiri doesn't know what to say. The tree monster notices Mei's gone too, so it decides to help them reach Horai, thinking Mei followed Gabimaru. Then, Yuzuriha finds out Hoko can guide them through the fog, so she changes her mind and tells Sajiri she'll go look for Gabimaru with her. While they're traveling, Yuzuriha talks about how tough it'll be when they get to Horai and have to face the Tensen. She asks Hoko about them, and he says legends say they used to be one hermit who split into 7 after mastering mystical stuff. The tree guy also talks about how his people turned into trees over 1,000 years ago and gathered in the Hojo area, hoping to get to Horai. He says his daughter was the first to change. He adds that the Tensen are like godly beings who pick who goes to Horai. Meanwhile, in Horai, the Tensen folks are having a chat about whether they like being male or female. They talk it out and seem pretty calm. Just when they were almost done talking, this guy Rin shows up and says they gotta talk about the folks who came to the island. He says these humans are different from the ones they met before cause they found a bunch of dead Sashin creatures. Then, Jufa gets all mad at Shujin for not paying attention and letting those humans get away, and also for losing to them. So, what does the Tensen do? He uses some invisible power from his hand and takes off Shujin's head. Yikes. Rin tells Jufa to chill and says they're like a family and should stick together. So, Jufa listens and calms down before telling about the humans he sent to the Tan Well. But Rin, who seems like the boss of them all, warns Jufa not to underestimate those humans or the ones who fought him. He thinks they could escape from the Tan Well, and he figures there might be more tricky humans out there. Then, he asks Jujin if he managed to clap the human he fought, and Jujin says yes. Even with all the problems, Rin's still confident and says he can handle anything. They all drink this stuff called tan and toast to being together forever and to their master. And right then, Jujin gets young again after drinking the elixir, and he's super mad. In a rocky valley, Gabimaru wakes up and thinks about the monster he fought earlier. He figures he might have a shot at beating them if he teams up with his friends. Then, he looks around and who does he see? It's the criminal Tamiya and his executioner, Fuchai. The big guy says Gabimaru looks really beat up and wonders if this is the end for him. They get ready for a fight, and Gabimaru stands on the edge of a brawl with these tough warriors. Tamiya keeps wondering if Gabimaru's gonna bite the dust because he's all bloody, and Gabimaru notices Tamiya's missing an arm. After a bit, the two crooks decide to test their muscle, but then Fuchai butts in and says their scuffle doesn't make sense and ain't logical. He tells Tamiya they should get info from Gabimaru without offing him. Meanwhile, Gabimaru figures out these two warriors in front of him mean business. He can't take them in his current beat-up state, so he switches gears and asks for an alliance. Tamiya, though, ain't buying it. He pulls his sword and stops just a hair's breadth from Gabimaru's noggin, but Gabimaru's chill about it. Tamiya wants to make sure Gabimaru ain't playing him and tells him he's a wimp. Fuchai gets curious and asks Gabimaru why he's making this ask. Both of them are surprised when Gabimaru spills the beans about these things called Tensen, though Fuchai ain't too sure if he believes it. Tamiya decides they should meet these Tensen critters Gabimaru mentioned, but Fuchai mentions that Gabimaru's their competition on this mission. Still, he's kinda itching to meet these immortal beings, cause he wants to take them apart. With their goals sorta aligning, Gabimaru, Tamiya, and Fuchai make an official team up. So, Fuchai says Gabimaru should spill more info, and he's getting ready to talk about Mei. But right in the middle of all this, Gabimaru's jaw drops when he sees Mei's grown a bit and hears her say his name. He's pumped and asks her if she knows how to beat the Tensen. Mei says it's something called Tao but can only give a quick rundown. She says Tao's both strong and weak, body and below the navel stuff. Just as she's about to spill more beans, a bunch of Sashin show up. Tamiya makes a bold move and goes after a bunch of those Sashin monsters, taking them down one after another. He figures that the best way to figure out Tao is by giving these creatures a taste of his fists. Then, there's this big guy carrying Mei on his shoulder, and she's leading the way while the monsters get closer. Gabimaru spots a different monster off in the distance among the Sashin and wonders what it might be. Now, let's switch to another scene. We see Sajiri's group strolling along, and Senta, one of them, starts putting the pieces together based on what Hoko told them. He thinks maybe this island ain't the real paradise on Earth cause it seems like a jumbled up mix of religions and cultures made by humans. Senta's got a theory that the boss of this island wants to send the flowered up humans back to the mainland, which could be a clue to finding that elixir and getting out of here. After he spills his thoughts, Senta realizes he's talked a lot, but Sajiri gives him a pat on the back for being so smart. Now, the ninja lady in the group starts worrying if they can take on the Tensen foes who've been at this for over 1,000 years. She's afraid Gabimaru and Mei might already be toast, but Sajiri's got faith. She says Gabimaru's alive cause all he wants is to go back and see his wife, and he won't croak before that happens. Soon after, Hoko breaks it down for the others. He talks about this thing called Tao, which is like a superpower present in everything in the world. He says the Tenzin are the bosses of Tao and mastering it can make you like a god, with crazy strength, and the ability to survive nasty injuries. It's all about that yin and yang cycle stuff. In another scene, Narugai tries to sneak up on Shin with her sword, but he, even though he's blind, stops her with ease. This really surprises her. Shin then says he won't teach her how to use a sword, even though she wants to get back at Tenza. Narugai begs him to show her his way of fighting because she doesn't want the people she cares about to get hurt. Hearing her plea, Shin talks about how he can sense waves around him, which lets him see stuff even though he can't see with his eyes. He says you gotta balance your spirit, like having both anger and calmness at the same time, to feel these waves. Narugai gets it but knows she won't get this power right away. Still, she insists on learning how to use a sword. So, Shin reluctantly points out what she's doing wrong and shows her the right way to handle a sword. While he explains, he easily chops up a Sashin creeping up on them. Shin tells Narugai he won't be her teacher, but she can watch and learn while he fights. So, she joins him in taking on the other Sashin. At the same time, Shin thinks to himself that he's gotta get even better at his power if he wants a shot against the Tenzin. Now, we switch scenes again. Cao Fa asks Mudan if the humans beaten by Ju Fa can escape from the pit. Mudan says it's pretty much impossible cause they'd be too weak to get out of that deep pit. Plus, the wall of humans all mushed together would stop them from escaping. Even though someone said it couldn't happen, Chobai, the bad guy, somehow escapes from that well with Toma on his back. When they're safe, Chobai spills the beans to Toma about his plan to get back at the Tenzin. Toma's not thrilled cause he knows this is like a one-way ticket to doom. But Chobai thinks the Tenzin have a weak spot in their lower bodies cause he saw one of them regrow stuff when he sliced them during their last fight. Toma's kinda impressed with Chobai's detective skills and says his brother's pretty smart when it comes to fighting to the death. Right then, they run into this monster who says he's a doshi, like the Tenzin's right-hand guy. He was sent by the Tenzin to check out what the humans are up to. The doshi tells them to get back to the well and become tan. But Chobai ain't having it. He's ready to face this dude. So, Chobai yanks the doshi's hands off, and the doshi has to defend himself and calls in the Sashin. While Toma takes on the Sashin, Chobai goes head-to-head with the doshi. During the brawl, the doshi doesn't think much of Chobai, like he can't handle Tao. But after a quick showdown, the doshi sees a chance to really hurt Chobai by whacking his neck. And guess what? He does it. Toma's freaked out, seeing his brother on the ground all bloody. But Chobai doesn't stay down, he gets up and keeps on fighting. The doshi starts freaking out when he sees that Chobai is regenerating super fast even though he's just a regular human. He also notices Chobai's Tao is shooting through the roof. So, they start round 2 of their fight. And during it, Chobai figures out all sorts of things about Tao until he's pretty sure he can beat the Tenzin. The doshi listens to this and gets scared cause the Tenzin's power might get messed up. So, he decides it's time to take Chobai out. While they're duking it out, Chobai remembers how he had to mess up his own face to become a criminal cause he didn't fit in with the underworld. He did it to protect his brother. Then, Chobai goes for the doshi's stomach and figures that might be the weak spot of these creatures. The doshi starts getting serious and tells the Sashin to attack the human warriors. But when he looks back, he sees Toma has taken care of the other Sashin, which really surprises him. Unfortunately for the doshi, Chobai learns how to use Tao too, and now he can see all that mystical energy stuff. With this new knowledge, Chobai beats the creature in front of him, and the battle ends. But Toma's worried about what's happening to his brother. At the same time, somewhere else, Tammy is still battling the Sashin, and he asks Mei if he's using Tao the right way. She says he's gotta mix strength and weakness to get it perfect, but right now, he's just doing strength with more strength. The fight keeps going, and our heroes manage to take down quite a few of those Sashin monsters. But then, the head honcho of the monster gang, who's also a doshi, spots Mei and says he hasn't seen her in forever, not since she got kicked out of the Tenzin palace. Now, he wants to drag her back there. When Gabimaru hears this, he figures out Mei's a Tenzin. But when he sees that Mei ain't keen on going with these guys, he decides to fight to keep her safe. The doshi guy splits into 2 and gets ready to face Gabimaru while calling in these butterfly monsters that turn people into flowers. Tamiya also wants to join the fight cause he's got a bone to pick with those butterflies. But as the battle heats up, they're having a tough time cause the doshi uses bugs and invisible power to mess with them. These creatures, who are the doshi, explain that they're training to master Tao, and there are 5 steps to getting really good at it. The first 4 you can do on your own, but the last one needs a partner. They spill the beans that for the last step, you gotta get real close with someone of the opposite gender to unlock that mystical power. They also reveal that Mei used to be a Tenzin, but she didn't have the full power, so the boss kicked her out. She had two choices, die or be a training buddy for the doshi. She got marked and had to run away to avoid that fate. When everyone hears this, they know what's up, and they get ready for a fight. While all this is happening, Gabimaru's getting really mad as he thinks about his wife, who got marked just like Mei. The two doshi turn into scary monsters and say it's time to get down to business. After a tough fight where they can't land a hit on the monsters, Fuchai tells Gabimaru that he's got a mixed strength and weakness to really use Tao. Mei shows him how to do it, and finally Gabimaru gets the hang of it. When Mei sees his energy, she's like, "Wow, you've got a lot of power." Then, he senses the monster's Tao and seriously hurts one of them. The doshi guys realize this guy figured out Tao super fast, and just before they get taken out, they notice that Gabimaru's Tao is like the Tenzin's. Gabimaru takes care of these monsters and says they're all set to go up against the immortals. After the fight, the beaten doshi spills the beans that the boss Tenzin told them to keep an eye on the intruders to see if they're a threat. He says they didn't mess up, but right after saying that, both Gabimaru and Tamiya take him out. Gabimaru says he's figured out the Tao trick but needs a little more practice to master it. At the same time, somewhere else, Sajiri's group gets to the Tenzin temple and meets one of them. This Tenzin wastes no time and chops Hoko's head off right away. Upon witnessing these events, shock ripples through everyone. Yuzuriha, sensing danger, makes a quick attempt to escape but finds herself swiftly captured by the enemy. Sajiri, maintaining a vigilant stance, carefully assesses the unfolding situation. Hoko steps in to provide some clarity, explaining that the mysterious figure responsible for this turmoil goes by the name Mudan and is counted among the Tenzin from the temple. Upon hearing this revelation, Senta's eyes widen in surprise, while Mudan sports a subtle, thousand-year-old grin. The Tenzin proceeds to drop another bombshell. Hoko is destined to undergo a transformation into a tree. Hoko, in contrast, appears quite thrilled, hoping that this transformation will lead his soul to enter Horai. However, Mudan dispels this hopeful illusion, exposing the grim truth that the entire concept of humans turning into trees and the religious beliefs surrounding it were fabricated by the Tenzin. This revelation shatters Hoko, who resembles a tree-like figure. Mudan takes it a step further, summoning modified humans who serve as his obedient warriors. They quickly subdue Yuzuriha, casting menacing threats at the others. Mudan finally provides an answer to the hero's burning question, revealing that the fabled elixir of life is nothing but a myth. He adds that the elixir, serves only the Tenzin, as consuming it would turn a human into a tree like Hoko, rendering the quest pointless. Later, a moment of unexpected courage sees Yuzuriha freeing herself and launching a fierce attack on Mudan. She then turns to Sajiri, urging her that they must make their escape. Sajiri, still processing the situation, is struck by the realization that Gabimaru's hope for an official pardon may never come to fruition. Yuzuriha reminds her that, for now, their primary goal is survival, a vital step to ensure she can aid her comrades, a task she can only fulfill if she remains alive. Mudan, the tricky foe, quickly regenerates after Yuzuriha's attack, nearly catching her. But Yuzuriha swiftly dodges, impressing Mudan. He sees potential in her and suggests teaching her the ways of the Tao. He explains that if she succeeds, she'll gain great power, but if she fails, she'll end up as raw material for more Tan. Just then, Senta and Sajiri step up, ready for a fight. A fierce battle unfolds. Senta manages to slice the enemy, while Yuzuriha uses her powers and skills to do the same. However, the Tenzin points out that Yuzuriha's techniques, while showcasing the potential of Tao, are too weak to hurt him. The gap between a human and a god is just too wide. The duel rages on, and Mudan proves to be stronger. But Hoko gives Sajiri a crucial tip: attack the Tenzin's abdomen, where the Tao flows from. Sajiri lands a blow there, but Mudan mocks her, sensing no Tao within her. Suddenly, Sajiri makes a devastating upward slice, forcing Mudan to retreat. As he looks at her, he realizes she can muster a significant amount of mystical power in a moment, a dangerous discovery. Everyone sees that Sajiri's wound on the Tenzin isn't healing, and she remarks that if the energy protecting him is Tao, she knows how to harm him. She likens it to Gabimaru's aura. Mudan notes that Sajiri's energy seems poisonous to him, both intriguing and alarming him. He fears for his life but also hungers to see what kind of Tan he can create with it if he defeats her. The battle rages on, and Mudan sets his sights on Sajiri, seeing her as the most dangerous foe. But the team doesn't give in. They stand their ground and manage to slice up Mudan as he moves around, putting up a tough fight. Mudan then transforms into a female form and attacks from above with air bombs, but the group skillfully dodges them. Sajiri, momentarily overwhelmed by the intense battle, freezes. However, Yuzuriha snaps her back to reality, reminding her that Mudan is not a god and that they can defeat him. Yuzuriha, with her sharp instincts, anticipates the technique Mudan is about to use, recognizing its similarity to her own. She declares she can counter it. She swiftly employs one of her ninja techniques to grab the enemy and bring them down. She signals Sajiri to do her part, and sensing the imminent danger, Mudan tries to defend himself. But then, Senta appears from behind and firmly holds Mudan, allowing Sajiri to strike the Tensen's stomach as planned, causing him to fall. They take a moment to catch their breath. Sajiri asks Senta why he helped Yuzuriha like that, hinting that he might have feelings for her. Senta explains that he admires Yuzuriha's freedom and how she lives. He confesses that he wanted to be an artist but had to follow the Aseman clan's teachings due to family rules. Yuzuriha is the first person who truly understands him, and he wishes he had her life. In a different scene, Gabimaru's group has triumphed over all the creatures. Gabimaru approaches Mei to express his gratitude and to learn more about the Tao. However, something is amiss. Gabimaru's energy seems different, and he starts bleeding, collapsing to the ground, shocking his companions. Near the Tensen temple, Sajiri and Senta are suddenly interrupted when Yuzuriha calls out to them. She warns them that something strange is happening to Mudan's body. It's turning into a flower. But before they can react, Mudan attacks Yuzuriha. Fortunately, Senta steps in and takes the hit for her. Sadly, this means his own body gets infected, and flowers start sprouting from him. With no time to waste, Sajiri realizes that Mudan has transformed into a monstrous creature. They must prepare to fight once again, and this time, he seems even more dangerous. Just then, Shin and Nurugai enter the scene, ready to join the fray. Arriving just in time to rescue Sajiri and Yuzuriha from Mudan's assault, Shin instructs Nurugai to tend to the flowers growing on Senta. He then moves the two women to a safer place as he gets ready to confront the monstrous Mudan. Armed with the knowledge he's gained about Tao during his journey to Horai, Senta remains in bad shape despite the removal of the flowers. Sajiri turns to Hoko for help, but Hoko sadly informs her that there's nothing he can do. Yuzuriha steps up to assist Senta by applying a salve to stop the bleeding. As Shin's battle against Mudan unfolds, Sajiri worries for her fellow Aseman. Nurugai reassures her, saying that Shin won't give in to death easily. Shin manages to avoid Mudan's stingers and Tao attacks while inflicting wounds on the monster that don't heal. This confirms to Sajiri that Shin possesses the same type of Tao as her, capable of defeating the Tensen. However, as Shin continues the fight, flowers begin to bloom from the wounds inflicted by Mudan's stingers. He has to slash them away, losing a lot of blood in the process. Mudan mocks Shin for risking his life and clarifies that he doesn't intend to die but is ready to if it means defeating Mudan. Seeing Shin in danger, Sajiri prepares to join the fight, believing that she, Nurugai, and Yuzuriha can create an opening if they work together. Yuzuriha, however, can't participate due to her lack of strength. Nurugai hugs Yuzuriha and Sajiri, believing that she can replenish their strength based on her and Shin's understanding of Tao. Sajiri starts feeling more energized, realizing the positive interaction with Tao, and rushes to Shin's aid. Both she and Nurugai are coated in Yuzuriha's mucus to protect themselves from Mudan's stingers. Sajiri tells Shin that they can only defeat a Tensen by striking their tandem. She and Nurugai will act as decoys while Shin goes for the finishing blow. Mudan targets Sajiri and Nurugai but fails to land a hit as they dodge his stingers and clap them down. Following Sajiri's plan, Shin slashes Mudan's legs to immobilize him and moves in closer despite Tao-converted lasers and a barrage of stingers heading his way. As Shin slashes away the stingers, he's fueled by hatred and frustration over Tenza's death, determined to press on. He manages to get on top of Mudan, with Sajiri and Nurugai pinning the Tensen's hands to prevent him from attacking. Shin gathers Tao into his sword, ready to bring it down and cut the tendons of both bodies. However, he hesitates when he realizes that the waves of Tao emitted aren't strong enough. With the stingers of Mudan about to come back, Shin realizes he has to stick to the plan. But then, Senta shouts to Shin, telling him to strike at the center, which is the plant ovule, because Mudan's Kishikai body is plant-like. Following Senta's advice, Shin slashes at the plant ovule, and something surprising happens. Multiple heads of Mudan are revealed. One of those heads is drawn to Shin's Tao, which is all about life and death. It wishes it could have told Rin about this before. In his final moments, as he turns into peony flowers from being destroyed, Mudan thanks Shin for ending his 1,000-year wait. After the battle ends, Sajiri and Shin worry about Senta, who is still suffering from his condition. Even though Yuzuriha has enough salve left, she suggests using it to heal Shin's injuries instead. She explains that it's too late to save Senta but tells him that he is free now to let go of his duties and spend his remaining time thinking about whatever he wants while she holds him. Hearing this, Senta imagines himself in Yuzuriha's arms and sheds a happy tear. His last thoughts are about being held by the person he admires. Shin decides they should move away from the area and assess the situation, a plan Yuzuriha agrees with. After mourning at Senta's grave, Sajiri thanks Yuzuriha for being understanding earlier. She believes that the only way to escape the island is for both criminals and executioners to work together. Not wanting to see any more of her comrades die, Sajiri makes a declaration that everyone on the island must make it out alive. Sajiri, Yuzuriha, Hoko, Shin, and Nurugai find refuge in a small house within Horai. Yuzuriha and Nurugai decide to change their clothes, while Shin gathers everyone to review what they know so far. They talk about how dangerous Tao can be when not used correctly. Yuzuriha brings up the elixir of life and doubts its existence. Sajiri, though, mentions Gabimaru's former leader's immortality due to the elixir. Yuzuriha speculates that the Iwagakure chief might have used Jinjutsu, an illusion technique, to control his people. She even questions if Gabimaru's wife is an illusion to manipulate him. Sajiri tries to stop her from speculating further, shocked by these ideas. Around this time, Chobai and Toma force the Doshi to guide them to Horai. Outside, Shin joins Sajiri as she reflects on the deaths of their comrades and Gabimaru. He thinks she's in love with Gabimaru, but Sajiri denies it. She says she pities the life he's led and believes he's not a bad person despite being labeled a claper. She hopes he'll reunite with his wife. Meanwhile, Gabimaru wakes up after fainting earlier and learns they're in a cave halfway up the valley wall. He can't remember much, only that he's Gabimaru the Hollow. He decides to go along with the people around him, either to gather information or, if they suspect something's wrong, to clap them. Mei notices something odd about Gabimaru's Tao, which hasn't fully formed at the top of his head. Outside, Gabimaru struggles to remember a memory of him and his wife together. In Edo, Yamada, Asim, and Shujin and a colleague receive a message from the shogun, instructing them to head to Shinsenkyo to monitor the vanguard party members sent there.